As technical experts and product leaders, we absolutely need to have a sensitivity to the sales process. Now, I have worked with many CIOs and IT people and other engineers, and they say, Raj, the word sales is a big no-no. We hate that word. It conjures up images of dishonesty, shortcuts, slime. Never use the word sales in your training. Folks, we're all in sales, okay? We're all trying to influence and persuade and motivate. This is all coming from a good place. You start from integrity, you're telling the truth, but you have to, as Aristotle said, tell the truth effectively, okay? We don't eat if the salespeople don't make sales. Some of us get jealous about their big commission checks. We got to get that out of our heads, okay? If they don't sell, we go out of business. That's how it works. So here's a little information to help you understand how sales are actually made. Now, I know many of you think what salespeople do is they get appointments and they go in and start talking, and they're very pushy and aggressive and talk all about products and benefits. Some salespeople do that. We call those the bad ones, okay? Selling has come a long ways in the last 50 years, and it's more consultative, it's more strategic, it's more trust-based, more partnership-focused. The first thing you need to do, if you're selling, is to make a connection with the prospect. I did a study with many GE salespeople a few years ago. I talked to hundreds of them, and the two things that they said that are most important when making the connection is to find something in common and bring something of value. Okay? So think about how you would find something in common. You could do a LinkedIn search. Maybe you went to the same school. Maybe you find out they live in the same town. This is not cheesy and sleazy. This is finding genuine human connection. I was doing a training in Boston a few weeks ago with a pharmaceutical company, and I was telling a story about how my daughter goes to a college in Iowa that no one's ever heard of, and I said, it's called Grinnell College. Out of 12 people, a hand shot up and said, hey, I went to Grinnell College. I instantly felt a connection with that person. We had lunch together. We talked all about the railroad tracks going through campus and so forth. So there is scientific proof that says people like people who are like them, and one of the ways to find that commonality is to find things in common, okay? That's number one. What can you bring of value? Maybe the salesperson said, we'd like to talk to you. If nothing else, we'll bring you our latest benchmarking study, and that might give you an idea of where you fall with your organization. So something of value, okay? Number two is discover. This is where you, the salesperson, ask a lot of questions. Think of yourselves as a doctor. The patient is the prospect, you're the MD. You're there to diagnose the problem. You don't walk into a doctor's office and say, oh, you've got cancer. No, they ask a lot of questions, they do some probing, some understanding, they run some tests, they do a diagnostic. That's step two of the sales process, discover. Next, we move to present. This is where you do tell about your company and your product or service. But you don't spray and pray, hosing them down with all kinds of information. You want to be very strategic and targeted and specific. You bring up just the part about your company and product or service that's relevant to that person and addresses his or her needs, both personal and business, and gets to that emotional driver underneath. Okay? We're almost done. The fourth step is create desire and urgency. Okay? Sales is an emotional thing. People buy with emotion and justify with logic. So once you and the salesperson has taken that spark of interest and built it into a bonfire, you better close quick because they got lots of distractions just like you. They're going to be on to the next thing. So you want to keep in regular contact, fan those flames, paint a picture of that brighter tomorrow. If you do this, such and such will happen. A lot of people are motivated by avoiding conflict, avoiding problems as well. In fact, there was a study done that people are twice as motivated to avoid things as they are to gain things. So you might want to also frame things in what they will avoid. Avoid customer complaints. Avoid getting product to market late. Avoid getting a bad news story on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, for example. So create urgency and desire is step number 4. And step number 5 is close. Now, in the old days, we would think the closer had a big cigar and would bring you in the back room and, put some heat on you. Those days are over. If you do the first 4 steps right, closing should be just a matter of getting the signature. One of the things a salesperson has to do way up front in the conversation is find out how decisions are made, who's involved, who's the actual person who's paying for this offering, who's going to sign the order, who's going to use it, who can advise you during the sales process, a coach you might call that. So all of those things have to be discovered up front so that closing becomes an easier proposition. You're not putting on heat, you're getting a signature and working through those final details. So I hope that gives you a quick overlook at the 5 steps of the sales process. Help you understand that salespeople actually do work for those commission checks and that there's a lot of art to it and it's not just taking orders. But use that sensitivity when you're putting together your training for salespeople and maybe join salespeople on calls. And you need to know when to talk and not take over the call. Certainly let the salesperson lead the call. But by understanding those 5 steps of the sales process, you'll understand where they are in the conversation and be able to pop in and pop out when you need to. And more importantly, how to design training that's going to work and make sense from the salesperson's point of view.